Hello there guys and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines Offline Mode with me, Siege. So for this video, we are going to build our first mid and high rises, open up office spaces, and create 3 of the parks that will define the city landscape. First, we are starting off with designing the last park within the first housing district. This is one of the larger public spaces out in the city, and I felt that it was one of the less packed, less developed, but more natural looking ones thanks to the large rocks that were already placed there right from the get-go. And before I continue, I'd like to introduce some graphics down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider giving the channel a sub. It's highly appreciated, and you can also consider following me on Twitter. I don't post it much yet, but I promise that I'll get into it sometime. Anyway, before reaching the riverfront, which is the planned location for the mid and high rise, I did some expansion first located around the park development with mostly residential zoning dotting the squares. I can remember that around this time, I wanted to get to that 7,000 population so bad. I was really excited, and after expanding that area, I did reach that big town milestone, which allowed me to refocus myself on other tasks such as the realignment of the highway, which I did on an earlier episode, as well as continue on with the long-awaited plans of high-density zones and the university district development, which you'd see later on in the vid. After unlocking the high-density zoning, I immediately zoned the riverfront area into high-density residential areas in one side and commercial and office spaces in the other. Back when I started the city and was planning where to locate some of the immediate zones, I already pinpointed this area as the startup for the city's mid and high rises. But what I didn't recognize earlier was the terrain of this area and this part was slopey and uneven, and I only discovered this as I was already building the 4-lane road you see by the river area. Nevertheless, I still resumed what was already planned, and in the end, it did look better than I expected. It wasn't really the tidiest area with smooth looking zones and elevations, but still it was nice to finally give the city its first mid and high rises. And finally, we are here in the main part of this vid, which is the layouting of the University Park and District, which I was looking forward to build because I'm actually applying for one right now. But anyways, this is not a campus that has a large area because I don't have the buildings to do so. I still also do not have the campus DLC, but I decided to at least give the university its open space, which is something that I really like when I see photos of universities and even schools, because it gives its students a sort of a relaxation area. Although in the city's case, the park is much more open and located in the heart of the district, so it must not be the quietest one out there where the students would study for long. But talking about what I did in this video, I fixed a part of elevation first because it was too slow for me. I wanted it to be a bit more flat so that it wouldn't look unbalanced. I also placed a botanical garden at the side to give it some sort of a space for the school to have its own plant collection, and later on a basketball court to give the students a sport to play. That's the most I could do to at least have a make-pretend small campus in the city. And speaking of these features, let's talk about the DLCs. I only own the After Dark and Snowfall, which I bought when I first got the game back in 2016. Those 2 were the only ones available at the time, and for me, who was still an 8th grader, the cost was just really high. It took a bit from my savings, and after that, as the DLCs piled up, I decided not to buy for the meantime because they really do not come cheap. 400 pesos is really a big price. And for now, I'm thinking about taking advantage of the Steam sale sometime. I really want to get my hands on some of the features of the DLCs, particularly those in Park Life and Mass Transit. Anyway, let's now focus on the park that we are designing. So one of the first parts that I did, aside from the monument, is this food alleyway, which in Philippines we usually call these places hepa lanes, and this is where we purchase street foods, and they typically sell on a cheap price, which means they're student friendly, so they are usually found near schools and parks. Although there are some concerns with food safety, they are still one of the go-to spots and a real cultural icon out here. Personally, some of my go-to foods there are fishball and buchi with buko or mango juice, and they are really worth it for their price. Just be careful though, try to see to it that it's prepared properly because you wouldn't want to always go back to the comfort room. And well, aside from the hepa lanes, we also made sure to place some tables and benches around the trees where the students or park goers can relax themselves while they eat or study. These features could also be found on the other side, built on a later time, albeit with less stations and benches, but aside from that, that, let's take a look at the monument. I wanted to make it a centerpiece of its own in this park, which is the reason you'd see me later removing the foliage that I am placing around right now to create a sort of a clear, highlighted view of the statue. But looking beyond this, I just really wanted to provide a zone of tranquility out here. I imagine some students parking themselves in some of the lots here with trees, studying, having fun, and I think this imagination is what keeps me going in this game. I want to think about good interactions that good places can give to people, which probably a lot of us might be unfortunately missing right now due to the ongoing lockdown and pandemic. And that really adds to the reason why I really hope that the rough times we are experiencing finally comes ending. Anyways, I placed some palm plants instead of the foliage, and I also added a little bit of detail, some trash cans right by the HEPA lanes, and also fountain and lights to decorate the monument in this park. After finishing up the park in front of the university, as well as expanding in the right by building up commercial and residential zones, I suddenly felt that I wanted to extend the park towards the main avenue. And to be honest with you, it's a decision that I do not regret because it turned out to be a beautiful looking spot in the city for me. So I started with building the friendly neighborhood park, which has a pavilion in it and some tables outside. And for me, it is spot on with regards to what facilities I think would be on a space that caters to students. These kinds of spaces will allow conversations and activities to occur not only between students but also with the residents of the district, and it even may allow for public debates or public chess matches, which does really happen in public parks such as in our city before. And extending from that are pathways surrounded with foliage as well as benches to allow citizens to relax in this space. I also placed some food stalls and tables to give life to the spaces in this park. And as you would see, it is one of the most visited and walked through areas in the city, with the end result being a park that I really appreciate and in my opinion one of the better area developments in this offline mode series. And that's it for now. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to this channel for future content.